Welcome back to our channel US Coin 69, the place where we uncover hidden treasures in your coin collection. Have you ever wondered if that old coins could be worth thousands or even millions? Well, today's your lucky day. We're diving into some of the rarest and most valuable US coins that might be sitting right under your nose. Let's jump in and see if you've got a fortune waiting to be discovered. Top 1. The Washington Quarter, a symbol of American history and numismatic significance, has captured the hearts of collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts alike. The coin we're about to explore in detail is the 1965 Washington Quarter Dollar. Now, at first glance, it may seem like just another piece of currency from the mid-20th century, but as we dig deeper into its story, we uncover a fascinating blend of historical events, intricate design, and remarkable value. In 1965, America was in the midst of a transformative period. The country was recovering from the turmoil of the 1960s, dealing with civil rights struggles, political unrest, and the ongoing escalation of the Vietnam War. Amidst this backdrop, the U.S. Mint faced challenges of its own, not the least of which was the financial burden of coin production. The cost of producing silver coins had been rising steadily, putting pressure on the mint to find solutions to maintain the currency's value and integrity. For decades, the Washington Quarter had been minted with 90% silver, reflecting the country's long-standing tradition of using precious metals for coinage. However, as silver prices surged, it became increasingly unsustainable to continue minting the quarter with such a high silver content. To address this issue, the U.S. Mint introduced a significant change in 1965, shifting the composition of the Washington Quarter from 90% silver to a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This was the first time in history that the Washington Quarter would no longer contain silver. The shift from silver to a copper-nickel alloy was not without controversy. Many collectors and silver enthusiasts were disappointed, as silver coins had long been viewed as symbols of American wealth and prestige. But the decision was necessary to prevent further financial strain on the mint and to ensure that the public would still have access to circulating currency. Interestingly, while the 1965 Washington Quarter had no silver, it did feature a fascinating aspect of American coinage history that would resonate with collectors for years to come. The 1965 quarter marked the beginning of a new era in U.S. coinage. The design of the Washington Quarter remained unchanged in 1965, with the iconic portrait of George Washington gracing the obverse, or head side, of the coin. This design, created by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932, had been in use for more than 3 decades by the time the 1965 quarter was minted. The portrait of Washington was a symbol of American leadership and unity, evoking the memory of the nation's first president. Flanagan's work had become one of the most recognizable and enduring designs in U.S. coinage, and it would continue to be used on quarters for many years after 1965. On the reverse side of the 1965 quarter, the traditional eagle design was replaced with a new design, though it retained many familiar elements. The eagle was replaced by a simpler, more modern rendering of an eagle in flight, grasping an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other. This new reverse design was created by engraver Frank Gasparo, who also designed the obverse of the 1964 Kennedy half dollar. The change in design was part of a broader trend of modernizing U.S. coinage during the 1960s in response to the changing tastes and expectations of the American public. But the most significant change for the 1965 Washington Quarter was, of course, the change in metal composition. While the design remained familiar, the quarter now had a different feel, a different weight, and a different sound when dropped on a hard surface. This shift was part of a larger movement in U.S. coinage during the 1960s, as the mint sought to make more affordable coins that would still hold their value in a changing economic landscape. The coin's value, however, remained steady at 25 cents, and the quarter continued to circulate as normal, despite the dramatic changes in its material. For the average American, the 1965 Washington Quarter was just another coin in their pocket, part of the everyday transactions of life. But for numismatists and collectors, the 1965 quarter became something much more interesting. For one, it marked the end of an era in American coinage, as it was the last quarter to feature the full 90% silver content. But it also stood out for its unique composition, a change that would have lasting implications for the future of coinage in the United States. In the decades following the release of the 1965 Washington Quarter, collectors began to take note of the unique historical significance of the coin. Despite its relatively modest appearance, it became a prized possession among collectors, particularly those who focused on the Washington Quarter series. The 1965 quarter became part of the story of the silver crisis and the transition to a new era of coin production, a period when the U.S. Mint was forced to adapt to changing economic conditions over time. The 1965 Washington quarter's rarity began to increase, especially when considering its relatively low mintage. While the U.S. Mint produced millions of these quarters in 1965, the change in metal composition, combined with the shifting demands of the market, meant that fewer and fewer of these coins remained in excellent condition. As the years passed, many of the 1965 quarters began to wear down in circulation, further increasing their scarcity and pristine condition. As with most collectible coins, the value of the 1965 Washington quarter depends largely on its condition and rarity. Coins that have been well preserved, with little wear and minimal signs of circulation, are highly sought after by collectors. Mint state (MS) coins, which are coins that have never been in circulation and remain in perfect or near-perfect condition, can command higher prices. But even coins that have been used in everyday transactions, if they are in good condition, can be valuable to the right buyer. In recent years, the 1965 Washington quarter has seen an impressive increase in value, particularly for those in mint condition. The price of a 1965 Washington quarter has steadily risen, and in some cases, it has reached astonishing figures. Some of the most coveted specimens have been sold for tens of thousands of dollars, far surpassing their original value. In fact, certain 1965 quarters have been sold for as much as $117,700, a truly remarkable price for a coin that was once seen as just a piece of everyday change. The demand for rare and historically significant coins like the 1965 Washington quarter has only grown in recent years, as more and more collectors and investors seek to add valuable pieces to their portfolios. The allure of owning a piece of American history, coupled with the potential for significant financial returns, has made coins like the 1965 Washington quarter highly desirable. It's a perfect example of how even seemingly ordinary objects can hold extraordinary value, both in terms of their historical significance and their financial worth. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the remarkable journey of the 1965 Washington quarter. From its humble beginnings as part of the everyday currency used by Americans to its rise as a sought-after collectible, the 1965 quarter embodies the shifting tides of U.S. history, coinage, and culture. It's a testament to the fact that the value of a coin isn't just measured in its metal content or face value. It's also measured by the stories it tells, the changes it represents, and the way it connects us to the past. So, if you ever come across a 1965 Washington quarter in your spare change, take a moment to look at it a little more closely. You never know, what seems like just another quarter could be worth more than you ever imagined. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone with an eye for history, the 1965 Washington quarter is a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures are the ones that you least expect. And with that, we reach the final reveal. The 1965 Washington quarter can fetch an incredible value of $117,700 in the right condition. It's a staggering amount of money for a coin that was once just a small, everyday piece of currency. But that's the magic of numismatics. The value of a coin can transcend its material worth and take on new significance as it becomes part of a larger story. So, next time you come across a 1965 Washington quarter, remember that it might just be hiding a bit of history and a lot of value right in your pocket. Top 2. We dive into American numismatic history, where we'll explore a true gem in the world of coin collecting, the Washington quarter dollar of 1971. Now, the story of this coin is far from just about metal and engravings. It's about history, artistry, and a legacy that continues to captivate collectors today. Sit back, relax, and let's journey through time together. In 1932, to mark George Washington's 200th birthday, the United States Mint released the Washington quarter dollar. This new design replaced the standing Liberty quarter that had been in circulation since 1916, and it featured a striking image of the first president of the United States, George Washington, facing left. His portrait was beautifully crafted by artist John Flanagan, whose design was chosen from over 1,000 submissions. But what makes the 1971 quarter particularly special? To answer that, we need to understand the historical context of the coin, the subtle changes in design, and the story of how it became a symbol of American pride. The 1971 Washington quarter isn't an anniversary coin or an issue with unique minting marks like some special edition pieces. It's part of the regular production, but it still carries some notable features worth discussing. First, the 1971 Washington quarter was part of the post-1965 era, during which the United States made a significant change in coin composition. The silver standard was abandoned, and coins were struck in a clad composition, meaning a copper-nickel alloy was used for the core, with an outer layer of pure copper-nickel. This change was prompted by the rising cost of silver, which was no longer feasible for mass production. Despite being a product of the modern era, the 1971 Washington quarter still retained the elegance and simplicity of the original design. George Washington's image stands proudly on the obverse, while the reverse showcases a majestic eagle in flight, holding a bundle of arrows and an olive branch in its talons. This reverse design, by artist Herman Atkins McNeil, had been part of the quarter since the coin's inception in 1932, offering a powerful symbol of American strength and peace. Yet, there were changes in the minting process that collectors would soon recognize as key details to watch for. Minting in 1971 was done across multiple U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. These coins were mass-produced, with billions of them entering circulation over the years. However, as time passed, certain quarters, particularly those from specific mints, began to be identified by collectors as rarer examples, often due to slight variations in the coin's strikes, die errors, or wear. These factors, sometimes subtle, sometimes obvious, could dramatically affect the quarter's value. Now, let's talk about the allure of the 1971 Washington quarter for collectors. When the coin was first issued, it wasn't something that caught the eye of most numismatists. After all, it was just another standard issue coin in the U.S. Mint's annual lineup. However, as the years went by, collectors began to appreciate the quality of craftsmanship behind each coin, and more specifically, the state of the coin after being in circulation. Coins with sharper details, fewer signs of wear, or those that came from lower mintage years gained traction on the secondary market. While most 1971 Washington quarters can be found in pocket change and don't carry much above their face value, certain varieties began to intrigue collectors. For example, those that came from the San Francisco Mint and were intended for proof sets are considered much rarer. These coins, which were struck with higher precision and polish, are now seen as more desirable among collectors looking to complete their collections with special or limited edition pieces. But here's where the magic happens. The appeal of rare or unique versions of a coin, like the 1971 Washington quarter, isn't just about finding a rare coin. It's about the story behind that coin and how it represents a moment in time, a snapshot of a nation's history. It's the same reason why some collectors are drawn to coins that have minor imperfections or oddities. These quirks make a coin special. You might be wondering, okay, so what makes this quarter so valuable? It's just a regular coin, right? Well, yes and no. While most of the 1971 quarters in circulation today aren't worth much more than their face value, certain rare examples have become highly sought after by numismatists. Coins that have been preserved in near-perfect condition, known as MS, mint state, 65 or above, are valued significantly higher. The rarity of these high-quality pieces, especially when it's coupled with certain minting errors, is what really drives their value. Some of these 1971 Washington quarters are so rare and so highly coveted by collectors that they can fetch astonishing prices at auctions. One particular 1971 Washington quarter, an MS-67 example, sold for a whopping $103,700 at a major coin auction. Yes, you read that right. Over $100,000 for a coin that, on the surface, doesn't seem like anything extraordinary. So what makes this specific quarter so valuable? The answer lies in its exceptional condition, rarity, and the demand from collectors who are always searching for coins in pristine quality. For those unfamiliar with coin grading, coins are graded based on their level of preservation and how closely they resemble the original quality when they were first struck. The scale ranges from poor, P1, to perfect, MS-70, and the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A 1971 Washington quarter in mint condition, with sharp details and no visible wear, is extremely rare. As time has passed, fewer and fewer coins have been preserved in this condition, especially from the earlier mint years. That's why this specific coin, along with others in perfect condition, can command such high prices as with all numismatic pursuits. Finding the right coin isn't just about luck. It's about understanding the market, knowing what to look for, and having an eye for detail. When it comes to the 1971 Washington quarter, there's more to it than meets the eye. It's about the story behind each coin and the rarity of finding one in flawless condition. So, if you're a collector, it's not just about filling gaps in your collection. It's about the thrill of discovery. And for those who may have a 1971 Washington quarter tucked away in a drawer or stored in a coin album, you may want to take another look. It could be worth more than you think. Even if you don't have one of the rarer varieties or higher-grade coins, keep in mind that the world of coin collecting is vast, and sometimes the value of a coin isn't just about the price tag. It's about its journey through history and the connection it creates with those who appreciate the artistry and heritage behind it. In the end, what makes a coin valuable isn't just its composition or design. It's the story it tells and the way it's cherished by collectors around the world. So, next time you come across a Washington quarter, take a moment to appreciate the history, the artistry, and the journey it's been on since it first left the mint in 1971. Because, who knows, you might just have a piece of American history worth far more than its face value. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the 1971 Washington quarter. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, happy collecting. Top 3. We're diving into one of the most iconic pieces of American currency, the 1979 Washington quarter dollar. This particular coin has intrigued collectors for decades, not just because of its design, but because of its fascinating journey through history and the remarkable value it commands today. If you're new to coin collecting or have been at it for years, you're in for a treat as we explore everything you need to know about this coin, from its origins to its present-day worth. So, sit back and get ready to uncover the secrets of the 1979 Washington quarter dollar. Our journey begins in the 18th century, with the founding of the United States of America. The fledgling nation was eager to establish its own identity, and currency was a key part of that process. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. This coin, which featured an image of Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse, became a symbol of American strength, leadership, and independence. But, as with all things in the world of currency, the Washington quarter underwent several changes over the years. By the time the 1979 Washington quarter came around, the coin had seen a number of design updates. The coin itself was initially made of silver, but over the years, the United States Mint switched to a copper-nickel composition for reasons of cost and practicality. The 1979 Washington quarter was no exception to this change, being minted in a combination of copper and nickel, making it more affordable to produce while still retaining its iconic design. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1979 Washington quarter itself. On the obverse, you'll find the familiar bust of George Washington, facing left. His dignified profile, with his distinct features and strong jawline, is a powerful reminder of the nation's first president. Around Washington's portrait are the words "Liberty, in God We Trust," in the year 1979, indicating when the coin was minted. Flipping the coin over, we come to the reverse side. This is where the design of the Washington quarter sets itself apart from many other coins in American history. The reverse of the 1979 Washington quarter features an eagle, wings spread wide, standing proudly on a bundle of arrows. Above the eagle, you'll find the words "United States of America," and below, "E pluribus unum," which translates to "out of many, one." This motto, symbolic of the unity of the United States, has been an enduring part of American currency for centuries. While the design is visually striking, it's the coin's history and place in American numismatics that make it particularly intriguing. The Washington quarter dollar was first released during the Great Depression, a time when the U.S. Mint was facing a shortage of coins due to economic challenges. The 1979 edition, however, was minted during a time of relative economic stability, though it still carried the weight of a nation's legacy with it. By the time 1979 came around, the coin had already been in circulation for nearly half a century, and by then, collectors had begun to take a greater interest in the Washington quarter's design and rarity. In fact, the 1979 Washington quarter was not only seen as an important piece of American currency, but also as a cornerstone of a growing collector's market that would go on to gain momentum in the years that followed. The process of minting coins in the United States, including the 1979 Washington quarter, was handled by several U.S. mint facilities, including those in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint was responsible for creating a certain number of coins, and the location of minting is often reflected in the coin's markings. The 1979 Washington quarter is no different. A simple but crucial feature of the coin is the small mint mark letter found on the reverse side of the coin, right below the eagle's tail. If you're looking for a specific mint, you'll want to pay attention to the letter there. D indicates the coin was minted in Denver, while S represents the San Francisco mint. For collectors, identifying the mint of origin is key to understanding the coin's rarity and value. While most 1979 Washington quarters are relatively common, some are more scarce than others. The Philadelphia Mint, for instance, produced a large number of these quarters, making those coins much more widely available. However, quarters minted in Denver or San Francisco tend to be less common and thus more highly sought after by collectors. But, as with any coin in the world of numismatics, it's not just about how common or rare the coin is. The condition of the coin plays a significant role in determining its value. Over the years, the 1979 Washington quarter has been subject to the wear and tear of circulation. However, for collectors, coins that remain in pristine condition, those that have been kept in mint or near mint condition, are worth significantly more. Coins with a high level of detail and minimal signs of wear are often graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher grades commanding higher prices. Now, let's talk about something truly fascinating: the 1979 Washington quarter's value. While most of the coins from this year are valued at only a few dollars, there's one particular version of the 1979 Washington quarter that has skyrocketed in value. If you're lucky enough to own one of the rare 1979 Washington quarters, specifically those that were minted in high grades or with certain mint errors, you could be sitting on a small fortune. One coin, in particular, has made headlines in the numismatic community, fetching an astounding $69,700 at auction. Yes, you heard that right, a quarter, worth a mere 25 cents in everyday transactions, can be valued at nearly $70,000. This extraordinary value comes from a combination of factors. First, the coin in question was in perfect, near-uncirculated condition. Second, it had a rare minting error that made it stand out from the typical 1979 Washington quarter. Collectors and investors are often on the lookout for coins with mint errors, as these coins are incredibly rare and can be worth many times more than their counterparts that were produced with no mistakes. So, how do you know if you have one of these high-value 1979 Washington quarters? While most coins from this year are fairly easy to come by, there are a few things to look for when determining if your coin might be worth a small fortune. First, examine the coin carefully for any signs of a minting error. These errors can take many forms, from double die errors to off-center strikes, and each one adds to the coin's rarity and value. Another factor to consider is the coin's condition. Coins that are still in excellent condition, especially those that were never in circulation or were only minimally handled, have a much higher value than coins that are worn down or damaged. Professional coin graders can assess the condition of your coin and assign it a grade, which will ultimately determine its value in the marketplace. For collectors, the 1979 Washington quarter has become an essential part of their collections, and its appeal only continues to grow. The coin's unique place in American history, combined with its impressive design and the potential for finding a rare, high-value version, has made it a sought-after item for numismatists all over the world. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, the 1979 Washington quarter dollar offers a glimpse into the rich history of American coinage and a reminder of the country's ongoing fascination with its currency. As we've seen, some of these quarters can be worth far more than their face value, and even the most seemingly ordinary coin can have an extraordinary story to tell. In conclusion, the 1979 Washington quarter dollar is much more than just a piece of change. It's a window into the past, a symbol of the United States history, and a coin with potential value that could surprise even the most seasoned collectors. So, if you happen to stumble upon one of these quarters, take a closer look. Who knows? You might just be holding a small piece of history worth a lot more than you think. Happy collecting! Top 4. We're diving deep into a fascinating piece of American history, an iconic symbol of the United States past and present, the 1981 Washington quarter dollar. But, as with any great story, the coin has a history filled with intriguing design choices, historical context, and unexpected value, because believe it or not, this quarter is more than just loose change. In fact, some examples of the 1981 Washington quarter have been sold for a jaw-dropping price of $62,700. Stick around until the end of the video, and we'll reveal how this particular quarter made its way into collectors' hearts and wallets. Before we zoom in on the coin itself, let's set the stage with a bit of background. The Washington quarter dollar was first minted in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It became an instant symbol of the nation, with the image of the first U.S. president forever gracing the obverse front of the coin. Throughout the decades, the Washington quarter has undergone several design changes and various minting processes, but it remains one of the most enduring and widely recognized coins in the world. Now, by the time 1981 rolled around, this quarter was an established part of the American coinage family. However, the 1981 Washington quarter didn't just fall into the standard routine of coin production. In fact, 1981 was an interesting year for U.S. minting, filled with both challenges and changes. Let's talk about the design of the 1981 quarter. If you've held one in your hands before, you've seen the image of George Washington, his face looking steadfast and dignified. This portrait was designed by John Flanagan back in 1932, and, remarkably, this same design has been used without significant changes ever since. But, of course, there's more to the coin than just the profile of Washington. The obverse features a slightly modified version of Flanagan's portrait of Washington, giving it a more modern, sharp, and detailed look. The inscription surrounding Washington's bust reads "Liberty" at the top and "God We Trust" on the left side, and the year of minting, 1981, on the right. The reverse side of the coin showcases a majestic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, representing strength and unity. Above the eagle, you'll find the inscription, United States of America, and beneath the bird's feet, it reads E pluribus unum, the U.S. motto meaning out of many, one. Lastly, the words quarter dollar complete the reverse inscription, signifying its value. As far as the actual minting process goes, 1981 saw the U.S. mint using a combination of traditional and modern techniques to produce the quarters. The coin was struck in a composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, a familiar alloy for U.S. quarters since the late 1960s. The 1981 quarters were produced primarily at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, with production totals hitting over 500 million pieces that year. But what makes this particular year, 1981, interesting is the minting variability. During this period, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different techniques to address production challenges, such as improving the precision of strikes and the overall finish of the coin. Some 1981 quarters have been noted for their fine details, clear strikes, and brilliant shine, and it's this particular quality that has caught the eyes of collectors. Now, we're getting into the real heart of the story. Why do collectors covet the 1981 Washington quarter, and what makes it stand out in the crowded field of other U.S. coinage? First off, let's discuss the collector market. Coin collecting is more than just a hobby. It's a passionate pursuit of rare, unique, and historically significant pieces. The appeal of the 1981 Washington quarter isn't necessarily its rarity, since there were over 500 million produced that year, but rather the specific qualities that certain examples exhibit. Many collectors are looking for coins with excellent strike quality, minimal wear, and attractive, near-perfect condition. That means certain 1981 quarters, especially those that were preserved well over the decades, can fetch a premium price. In addition to condition, certain characteristics can make a 1981 quarter particularly rare. Some of these include off-center strikes, die cracks, and other imperfections that occur during the minting process. These flaws are often more common in older coins, but when they occur in more recent mintings, like the 1981 quarter, they can be highly desirable to collectors. It's also important to mention that quarters with certain mint marks, such as the S mint mark from San Francisco, may have a higher value due to their limited production. Another important factor to consider is the collector interest in full sets of quarters. The Washington quarter has been in production for decades, and collectors often seek to complete sets that span the entirety of the coin's production run. A 1981 Washington quarter, as part of a larger set, holds particular interest for people completing their collection of modern U.S. coins. And now, for the big reveal, just how much is a 1981 Washington quarter worth today? Well, the short answer is it depends. As with most coins, its value is largely determined by its condition and rarity. For a run-of-the-mill 1981 quarter in circulated condition, you're looking at a value of only about 25 to 50 cents, slightly above face value due to its age. However, coins that are in pristine, uncirculated condition can easily fetch higher prices. A 1981 quarter in mint condition, essentially a coin that's been well preserved and shows little to no signs of wear, can range anywhere from $5 to $20, depending on demand. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. The true surprise lies in a rare, well-preserved, and exceptionally high-quality 1981 Washington quarter. One such coin, graded as MS-67, was sold for an astonishing $62,700. That's right, $62,700. And it wasn't just the coin's pristine condition that made it so valuable. The coin also boasted incredible eye appeal, with deep, rich tones and a sharp, clear strike that made it stand out from all the others. Now, you may be wondering, how could a coin that was minted in the 1980s, relatively recent by coin standards, be worth so much? The answer lies in the market dynamics and the collector community's insatiable desire for rare and high-quality specimens. For collectors who are committed to acquiring the finest examples of American coinage, a coin like the 1981 Washington quarter represents a true treasure. If you're wondering how you can tell if your 1981 Washington quarter is worth a significant amount, there are a few things to look for. First, check the coin's condition. A quarter in uncirculated, mint condition will have sharp details and will appear free from any signs of wear. If the coin is still shiny, that's a good sign it hasn't been in circulation much. Additionally, pay close attention to the strike. Some 1981 quarters have been noted for their exceptional strike quality, meaning the design is well-defined and crisp. Next, check for any unique errors or variations, such as off-center strikes or die cracks. These imperfections may not seem like much at first glance, but they can be the key to unlocking a higher value. Also, remember to look for a mint mark. An S mint mark could add value, depending on the rarity of the specific variety. Finally, if you have a large quantity of 1981 quarters, consider getting them professionally graded. Coin grading services like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) or the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS) can provide a precise, standardized grade that will help you determine whether your coin is worth a premium price. And there you have it, the fascinating story behind the 1981 Washington quarter dollar. What seems like just another ordinary coin is actually a piece of American history, a symbol of craftsmanship, and a coveted treasure for collectors. While most of us may simply spend our quarters without a second thought, there's real value hidden in some of these seemingly mundane pieces of currency. And, as we've seen today, the rare and valuable 1981 Washington quarter is a prime example of how a small coin can carry a big story and even a massive price tag. So, next time you find yourself digging through loose change, keep an eye out for that 1981 Washington quarter. Who knows? You might just stumble upon a valuable piece of American numismatic history. Top 5. Have you ever wondered about the hidden treasures circulating in your pocket change? Or perhaps the history behind a coin that might seem ordinary to some, but to collectors and history buffs, it represents more than just currency. Today, we're diving into one of those coins, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, this quarter may seem like just another coin among thousands produced, but there's so much more to it than meets the eye. To understand its value today, both in monetary terms and in the hearts of collectors, we need to travel back through time. The story begins long before 1982, all the way back in 1789. America had just won its independence and was beginning to form its identity as a nation. And who better to represent that identity than George Washington, the very first president of the United States? His image would soon become one of the most iconic and recognizable faces on American coinage. As country grew, so did its currency. Through the years, Washington's image would appear on various coins, but none would be as enduring as the Washington quarter. The first Washington quarter was released in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth, and it quickly became a staple in everyday transactions. Fast forward to 1982. The economy was in a state of transition, and the U.S. Mint was working tirelessly to create coins that would be both durable and easily recognizable. The 1982 Washington quarter was no exception. Like all quarters of the time, it featured a standard design that had been in circulation for decades, but something about this particular year set it apart. The Washington quarter is made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, which was introduced in 1965 as a way to reduce the cost of minting coins. In 1982, the U.S. Mint produced over 500 million of these quarters, nearly $500 million. But the production numbers alone don't tell the full story. It's the specifics of each coin, such as the mint mark, condition, and subtle variations, that would eventually make some of these 1982 quarters highly desirable to collectors. Take a closer look at the design itself. On the obverse, or front, we see the classic portrait of George Washington, facing left. His likeness was sculpted by John Flanagan, and it's become one of the most iconic images on U.S. currency. Above Washington's head is the word Liberty, while below, the year of mintage, 1982, is stamped. Surrounding the portrait is the phrase, "In God We Trust," and along the rim, the word quarter dollar. On the reverse side, we see the heraldic eagle, symbolizing America's strength and pride. This eagle, along with the other design elements, has remained mostly unchanged since the coin's inception. The 1982 quarter might look very familiar, but there are still some subtle differences that make certain coins from this year special. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a 1982 Washington quarter stand out from the others? The answer lies in the mint marks. Coins from the U.S. Mint are stamped with one of three mint marks: P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. Most of the 1982 quarters were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, but a small number of them came from the San Francisco Mint. The San Francisco Mint quarters are especially sought after, as they were struck in proof condition, a type of coin that's specially made for collectors and not for general circulation. As with any collectible, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. A quarter in pristine condition, with no signs of wear or damage, is far more valuable than one that's been in circulation for years. The higher the grade, meaning the better the condition, the higher the value. Experts use a system known as the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70, to grade coins. A coin that earns a grade of 60 or above is considered to be in mint condition. But for coins like the 1982 Washington quarter, even a slight imperfection can significantly reduce the value. However, if you happen to find a well-preserved 1982 Washington quarter, you may be in for quite a surprise. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While most of the 1982 Washington quarters are worth face value, there are a few rare exceptions. Some coins have been found to have special characteristics that make them worth much more. For instance, some of the proof quarters minted in San Francisco, in particular, have been sold for prices far exceeding their initial value. But what really sets the 1982 Washington quarter apart is a unique, near-mythical example, one that has sparked the curiosity of collectors and investors alike, whispering as if revealing a secret. A certain 1982 Washington quarter, in near-perfect condition, has recently sold for a jaw-dropping $64,700. That's right, this humble coin, which was once used to buy a simple cup of coffee, is now worth over $60,000. So, what's the secret? The coin in question is an extremely rare, high-grade specimen, and its scarcity combined with its condition makes it a true treasure among coin collectors. But the story doesn't end here. There are still hundreds, perhaps thousands, of 1982 Washington quarters out there, waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. Who knows? Maybe you've got one tucked away in your own collection, or in that jar of loose change sitting on your kitchen counter. With a little bit of luck, you could find the next big coin that could send your wallet soaring. Coins like the 1982 Washington quarter remind us that even the most unassuming items can have incredible stories to tell, and that history and value often come together in the most unexpected ways. Top 6. In 1986, a coin was released in the United States that would go on to captivate collectors and enthusiasts for generations to come. The Washington quarter dollar of 1986. The Washington quarter itself has a long history that traces back to 1932, when it was first minted to honor the nation's first president, George Washington. This coin was the result of a redesign of the earlier quarter that featured a more classical and, at the time, highly revered symbol. Fast forward to 1986, and the Washington quarter was still a beloved staple of American coinage. But what was it about this particular year that caught the attention of numismatists? Well, as we'll soon discover, there's a lot more to the 1986 Washington quarter than meets the eye. The story of the 1986 Washington quarter begins, as many of these tales do, with the U.S. Mint. In 1986, the Mint was coming off of several decades of economic and geopolitical challenges, not unlike the rest of the country. But in the mid-1980s, things were looking up. The U.S. economy was recovering from the recessions of the previous decade, and people were taking more of an interest in American history, especially its founding fathers. This resurgence of interest was felt even in the coins people carried in their pockets. The Washington Quarter, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, had undergone minor modifications over the years, but by 1986, it remained largely the same. The obverse of the coin featured a portrait of George Washington, and the reverse depicted a majestic eagle. But what most people didn't realize back then was how this particular year's release would come to be seen as a standout in the eyes of collectors. The Mint's decision to create different versions of the quarter in 1986, which would come in multiple finishes and for various commemorative purposes, would add an intriguing layer to the coin's story. The regular circulation coin wasn't all that special by itself, but what came with it were limited runs of proof coins. Proof coins, as you may know, are specially minted for collectors, and they often carry a premium in the numismatic world. These coins were produced with higher quality dyes and polished to a fine mirror-like finish, making them much more visually striking than the regular circulation versions. They were available in a variety of sets, but it was the 1986 proof Washington quarter that quickly became a prized piece for coin collectors. People were drawn to its enhanced beauty and quality, and soon, it became a staple in the collections of many serious numismatists. The Washington quarter was also part of a series of important changes and celebrations in American coinage. It was 1986 when the U.S. Mint celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime. So, even though the Washington quarter wasn't directly involved in this milestone, its place in American coinage was undoubtedly reinforced. Coin collectors were looking at the Mint's offerings with greater appreciation for the history they encapsulated, and the 1986 Washington quarter became a bridge between past, present, and future. But beyond the context of these developments, one question remained. What made the 1986 Washington quarter so attractive to collectors? To answer this, we need to dive into the specific details of the 1986 release. As we mentioned earlier, the coin had been in circulation for several decades by this point, and its design was familiar to many. George Washington, the nation's first president, gazed stoically at the viewer from the obverse. The reverse, featuring the bald eagle, was a powerful symbol of American pride. But it wasn't just the design that made this coin so captivating. No, it was also the coin's minting process that added something special to the MIX. In 1986, the United States Mint had moved toward advanced technologies that allowed them to create coins with much greater precision than ever before. The quality of the strike was sharper, the detailing more defined, and the finish was smoother. This made the Washington quarter of that year one of the most finely crafted examples of the coin to date. Those who saw it in person couldn't help but be drawn to its beauty and elegance, especially when compared to older quarters that had weathered years of wear and tear in the circulation. But let's take a moment to talk about the coin's popularity among collectors. The 1986 Washington quarter's allure came from its connection to both historical and modern coinage. Many collectors were looking for coins that weren't just beautiful, but also had a certain story to tell. The Washington quarter of 1986 did just that. For one, it was tied to the legacy of George Washington, a figure revered not only in the United States but around the world. Second, it was a piece of a wider movement in coin collecting as collectors began to look beyond traditional silver coins and focus on those with more recent historical importance. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it was a coin that signaled the Mint's commitment to producing quality pieces for collectors. It had an air of prestige that made it a must-have for anyone serious about American numismatics. As the years went by, the Washington quarter of 1986 became an increasingly coveted piece, especially the proof version. But there was something even more special about this coin that many didn't fully understand at the time of its release. The 1986 quarter would come to be known for its rarity and value in the future. While it was produced in large numbers, some unique qualities, such as low mintage or small imperfections, made certain coins far more valuable than others. In fact, the 1986 Washington quarter has become one of the most sought-after coins in the world of numismatics, with some collectors willing to pay astronomical prices to add this stunning piece to their collections. So, how much is the 1986 Washington quarter worth today? Well, the answer might surprise you. While the regular circulated version of the coin is still worth only its face value of 25 cents, the proof coins are a completely different story. In fact, one of these proof quarters, depending on its condition and the presence of any unique characteristics, can fetch staggering amounts at auction. Some 1986 Washington quarters have been known to sell for as much as $56,700, making this coin not just a collector's treasure, but a highly valuable investment. Why such a high price? The answer lies in the rarity of certain pieces and the demand among collectors. Coins in mint condition, especially those with special attributes such as perfect strikes or flawless designs, are the holy grail for numismatists. These coins can appreciate in value over time as demand rises, particularly for proof coins like the 1986 Washington quarter. And as more and more collectors realize the rarity of this stunning coin, prices continue to climb. What makes the 1986 Washington quarter so appealing to collectors is not just its design or history, but the fact that it's a piece of living American history that has stood the test of time. The Washington quarter, particularly in its 1986 iteration, continues to symbolize the enduring values of the United States. It represents the country's commitment to honoring its founding father, George Washington, and at the same time, it serves as a testament to the mint's ability to create coins that are both beautiful and historically significant. So, the next time you come across a 1986 Washington quarter, take a moment to appreciate not just its design and history, but the value it holds in the world of numismatics. Whether you're a collector, an investor, or just someone who appreciates beautiful coins, this little piece of American heritage holds a story all its own. And if you're lucky enough to find one of the rarest examples, you just might be holding a coin worth tens of thousands of dollars, proving that sometimes the smallest treasures can hold the greatest value. Top 7. In the realm of numismatics, few coins hold as much allure and intrigue as the Washington quarter dollar of 1970. This coin is a symbol of American history, craftsmanship, and the dynamic forces that shape currency. But what is it about this particular coin that makes it so compelling, not just for collectors, but for history buffs and enthusiasts? Let's take a deep dive into the fascinating world of the Washington quarter dollar, a coin with a story that spans centuries, and discover why its 1970 version is so special, culminating in a value that could astonish anyone who understands the nuances of numismatic value. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 as part of the celebration of the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. George Washington, as the first president of the United States, had already become a symbol of the nation's strength, unity, and independence. His legacy was firmly embedded in American culture, and what better way to honor him than with a coin that would circulate widely across the country? This was no ordinary tribute, however. The coin had a unique design by John Flanagan, a prominent American artist. Flanagan's rendition of Washington's profile was powerful, reflecting the dignity and strength of the nation's first leader. The Washington quarter underwent several design changes throughout its history, but its symbolism remained constant. The 1970 version of the quarter is particularly noteworthy due to its place in a transitional period in U.S. currency. It's often seen as the last of an era in some ways, as it continued to feature the classic design of Washington's profile on the obverse. On the reverse, the eagle had already been replaced by a symbolic representation of an eagle with an olive branch, continuing the coin's message of peace and prosperity. The minting of the 1970 Washington quarter is another fascinating aspect of its appeal. During this period, the United States was experiencing significant shifts in both political and economic spheres. The Vietnam War was still ongoing, and the nation was grappling with inflation and changing financial markets. Despite these challenges, the U.S. Mint continued to produce coins with the same commitment to quality that had defined earlier generations. In 1970, coins were produced at several minting facilities across the country, including the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Coins minted in these different locations were slightly different in terms of their appearance, but they all shared the same core design, which kept the legacy of George Washington alive in the public's mind. For collectors, the 1970 Washington quarter is a special piece. The quality of the minting process during this time resulted in coins that, while not exceedingly rare, have developed a significant collector base over the years. Coins from the 1970s are often sought after because they represent an interesting snapshot of a turbulent era in American history. Coins from this time period, especially ones that were preserved in exceptional condition, tend to be valued highly by those in the numismatic community. The condition of a coin is always paramount in determining its value, and even small differences in minting, wear, and tear can significantly affect a coin's worth. But what sets the 1970 Washington quarter apart from others? Well, much of its allure comes from the fact that it wasn't produced in massive numbers like some of the earlier versions of the Washington quarter. The U.S. Mint's production numbers were not as high in 1970 as they had been in previous years, which makes finding an uncirculated or well-preserved 1970 Washington quarter more difficult than it might seem at first glance. Additionally, coins that were part of sets or those that didn't circulate widely tend to be in better condition, adding further value to those that remain in excellent shape. Now, let's talk about the most exciting part: the value of the 1970 Washington quarter. While the face value of this coin is, of course, 25 cents, its true worth in today's numismatic market can be staggering. A well-preserved 1970 Washington quarter in uncirculated condition can fetch a surprising price at auction. The coin's value can vary depending on its condition, with coins in mint state generally commanding the highest prices. Coins from the 1970s, particularly those with mint marks indicating they were produced at the San Francisco Mint, are often regarded as more desirable due to the higher quality of minting at that facility. What's even more remarkable is that certain rare versions of the coin, those with unique features, such as errors or other anomalies in their production, have sold for eye-watering amounts. Some 1970 Washington quarters have been known to sell for over $100,000 at auctions, especially when they are in pristine condition and have a particularly interesting provenance. These types of coins have a certain mystique to them, drawing in high-end collectors who are willing to pay top dollar for a piece of history. For the average collector, however, even a 1970 Washington quarter in decent condition can hold significant value. Coins in average circulated condition may only be worth a few dollars, but those in better condition, especially those graded as MS-65 or higher, can easily fetch much more. As time goes on and the number of well-preserved specimens continues to decrease, the demand for high-quality 1970 Washington quarters is likely to increase, pushing their value ever higher. If you're thinking about diving into the world of numismatics, particularly with an interest in Washington quarters, there's no better time to explore the value of the 1970 edition. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a newcomer to the hobby, this coin is one that commands attention, not only for its historical significance but also for its growing value in today's market. So, how much could a 1970 Washington quarter be worth today? You might be wondering. Well, the answer might surprise you. While most 1970 quarters are worth just a small premium above their face value, certain high-quality specimens have sold for astronomical sums. The record price for a 1970 Washington quarter stands at an astounding $100,700. This sale was driven by the rarity, exceptional condition, and the sheer demand for high-grade examples of this coin. It's a prime example of how a seemingly ordinary piece of currency can appreciate in value over time when preserved and sought after by collectors who understand its significance. In the end, the Washington quarter of 1970 tells the story of American history, craftsmanship, and the enduring appeal of numismatic treasures. Whether you're holding one in your hand today or dreaming of finding a rare, high-quality specimen in your collection, the 1970 Washington quarter serves as a reminder that even the smallest pieces of currency can carry immense historical and monetary value. So, the next time you come across a quarter from 1970, take a closer look. You might just be holding a piece of history worth more than you ever imagined.